Hey everyone, happy Thursday. A lot of great engagement already in the chat. So, thank you so much for spending a little bit of your time with me today. I want to talk about probably, I will say, one of the most important things you can do for your career regardless of if you are in learning or and development or whatever your career is, really focusing on building your network. And I, again, am no expert whatsoever, but I have really put a lot of time and effort into working on this over the past couple of years. And it's something that I think has really paid dividends for me. And I'm going to share a little bit about my story on why I did networking and why I think it's important. But mostly, I'm going to share a lot of lessons I learned the hard way that can maybe help you not fall into the same traps that I have. So, again, welcome. My name is Kara North. If I haven't had a chance to meet you, I do have some resources today. So, if you hit the button below my video, it'll give you a Google Doc with some resources that I want to talk about today. But I just wanted to be big for a second, just to say hello, and with that, I'll go ahead and make this a little bit bigger and we'll hop right into it. And as I'm getting, oh, thank you. Slides Carnival is where I got this from, Devlin, not Delvin, right? I got it from Slides Carnival, so thank you. I appreciate that. And yeah, so let's go ahead and kick it off and get started today. And I thought it'd be really important just again to share kind of my story because I think it actually might surprise some of you if you don't know me. If you know me in person, you know I'm very kind of energetic, but it took me a while to kind of get to that point, and I just want to kind of share with you kind of why I started networking and where it's kind of went. So, this is where I started my instructional design career. This was back in 2010, and this was the building that I worked out of. And actually, if you go in that side door and then go down the hall, my office was about almost all the way in the back there. And I spent a lot of time working as an instructional designer for Amazon. And I am like a lot of folks in learning and development, I completely fell into it. I graduated undergrad in the recession, ended up moving back home with my family, found a job at a call center, absolutely hated it. And I got recruited to come over to Amazon when they built a brand new customer service center in the town that I was working in. So that's my story on how I came over to Amazon. And I was really well supported there. I got to work with some really brilliant people. The manager that I had, my instructional design manager, came from Microsoft, and by far the most brilliant person I've ever met in my life. She took really good care of me, and I really enjoyed my time there. I mean, I had a really, really good experience overall at Amazon, but if you want any specific details, feel free to ask me. I like to talk about my experience there. And we had fun. I mean, they had like parties for us. I worked in the Kindle department, and so I got a Kindle before like a lot of people had them. Got to go to Seattle, so I had a really, really good time. But then I fell in love, and you do silly things when you fall in love. But I fell in love, and I decided to move to a different state, and so I ended up moving to Ohio, and I got a job at Ohio State University. And so I went from this really kind of great internal network of people to feeling like this, okay? I was on a team that was super well supported. I knew who I could talk to. Internally, I felt very well supported, and this is what I felt like when I moved to Columbus, Ohio. The only person that I knew was my partner, and then his family, and it was just it was bad. I mean, I moved to Columbus in 2013. Yes, had to think about it for a minute. Yeah, that's correct. And my first 2 years here, I really struggled. I struggled with my identity. I struggled with, really feeling like I was fitting in. But I was also getting my master's degree too at the time because a nice benefit of working at a university is they have free tuition. So I got my master's and my PhD for free, which is amazing. So that's my little sidebar conversation. If you're looking to get a degree, I recommend working at a university so you don't have to pay for it. Great. So anyway, I still felt like this though, and I could still talk to my friends at Amazon, but it was just really weird. And back in 2016, I ended up going to an event at my local ATD chapter. I happened to meet this guy, and that is Mike Taylor. And I didn't really realize what a big deal Mike Taylor was, but he actually did a presentation about growing your network. And I was a complete sponge. It was in March of 2016. I remember it. I remember where it was. I remember everything he said. And something that really stuck with me that he said was that social media is like this 24/7 conference, and it's a way to connect with people, to really deepen your connections and really gain a lot of knowledge in your profession. And he really sold me on Twitter, and I didn't have a Twitter at the time, so I actually signed up in his session. And I went up to him afterwards and I said, "Can you just kind of walk me through kind of what you do with it?" And so I went to his website and he had a nice little video explaining how he used it. And I was like kind of getting the hang of it, but again, I was still in school. I was still trying to figure out all of this stuff going on, plus working full time, plus planning a wedding, life, right? So I was like, "Oh, I got this Twitter. I don't really know what to do with it." And then I ended up going to my very first higher ed ID conference that same year, and it was in Wisconsin. It's the Distance Teaching and Learning Conference at the University of Wisconsin. And when I was there, I saw all these people on their phones. And at the time, Pokemon Go was really big. And I was like, oh, great, there must be a lot of Pokemon around here. And I looked at somebody, and somebody was like on Twitter. And I said, can I ask you what you're doing? And they're like, oh, I'm live tweeting the conference. And I was like, live tweeting the conference? She's like, yeah. She's like, I'm just, writing out kind of what's going on and I'm sharing it for people that aren't here. And I thought that was brilliant. I was like, oh my gosh, that makes perfect sense to me, because not only is this something that I can share for people that can't physically be at this conference, but what a great reminder of me of my takeaways and how I internalize kind of what's going on. I have like kind of this nice record of what it is that I'm doing. So that was the first conference that I live tweeted. And it became kind of like a little game. They had this big board there, if you can see it. And I wanted to see how many of the tweets I could be mentioned in and that kind of thing. But a little strange thing happened at that conference. I found the more I tweeted, the more people that followed me happened. And as I was sharing this out, and it was people that were at the conference, but then it was people that weren't at the conference. So they were, it was a good mix of people. People were coming up to me saying, "Oh my gosh, you're the person who's doing all this tweeting." And I was like, "Oh my gosh, this is crazy." So then I got kind of hooked on it, and that's one of the main things that I started doing to kind of build out my network. And kind of the TLDR here is, now today I have this ginormous network of learning and development professionals, and so many of them are almost like second family members to me. I make the remark that I have like a learning and development family tree, because I feel like if there's something I don't know, I can bounce an idea off somebody, or I can turn to somebody, or somebody has a resource, and I don't feel so alone, even if I am kind of on a smaller team. And currently in my new role, I'm a team of one. Like I am the only show in town as I'm trying to get the strategy in my new job and start to look at like what my team is going to look like. It's hard, but I've been able to do this and I have the confidence to do it because I'm well supported in my network. So I don't know if that kind of helps to give you some background on kind of why I think it's so important, but it didn't happen overnight. Like I said, it was, it took me at least a good couple of years here, and I'm still not 100% perfect with it, but again, if there's anything that I can do to kind of help steer you away from some of the goofs that I made in my first year, I really hope that I'm able to do that. And as I'm talking, please feel free to put questions in the ask a question feature. And then I am trying to also follow the chat. So it looks like there's a lot of great people in here. No, I'm not, Kristen. I'm not touching the goofs that I met, but again, privately, I'm sure I have some of those folks I could tell you about. Okay, so before I talk a little bit about kind of these lessons that I learned, I was so kind of empowered after all these experiences that I had. I decided to actually do some informal research about networking for professions, and I did some literature reviews as part of my PhD. And I was really interested in how information spreads and what the importance is of kind of these connections in a network. And so, from what I understand, there's kind of like three main buckets, if you will. So, the first is social capital, the ability to kind of connect with others. So, a great example of this is, let's say that there's someone you admire in your profession and you have some kind of a relationship with that person through social media. A lot of times you can actually just send them a direct message, or you can, ask them a question, and sometimes they can give you a resource. Or I mean, if they're super nice, they'll say, hey, give me 5 minutes and I'll hop on a Zoom with you or something. If you were to pay that person for the time that they usually charge for a consulting fee, um, that would probably add up very quickly. So, really want you to think about the social capital of it. You want to see yourself and you want to be in a network that thrives on supporting one another. And if you're able to kind of make those connections, again, with the way everything is right now, you never know who will know where your next opportunity is. And even people that I know specifically, I might not personally be a fan of, I still may be cordial with them because again, you just never kind of know what that is. But it's really important again to be seen as somebody who is giving information and sharing information to build your social capital for your network. Another one is curation. So many people, and myself included, first time I started to do this, and I thought, like, what on earth could I share with somebody? What value do I bring? I'm this person who has been in this industry for a while, but now I'm in higher ed, and I don't feel like I know anything about what's going on in higher ed. So Mike Taylor taught me kind of this method of aggregation, of trying to find good vetted resources. And I believe that curation is really a skill, and really knowing how to share content that is value added, that really can kind of make an impact on someone else. And again, you're probably doing this anyway. You're probably reading and going through a bunch of stuff on your day to day grind anyway. So why not, instead of just read it like, man, that was really good, share it with your network? Because if you got a lot of value out of it, chances are someone else probably will too. And finally, obviously, the big one is your own personal and professional growth. So, a lot of times, network information in your network can be kind of shared of you trying to learn a new skill. So, Mr. Devlin Peck here, he is showing off the XAPI stuff if you're interested in learning that, and that he's doing these streams that are extremely valuable for that. And I'm really grateful for replays because I had to miss it. But XAPI is kind of a new skill for me. I have a general understanding of it, but as far as execution goes, it's I need a lot of work on that. Or, maybe you want to upskill. So maybe you already know how to use articulate storyline, and someone like Jonathan Hill blows you away and all the amazing hacks he does and shares with that. And you're able to grow because Jonathan is so kind to share out some of the stuff that he's working on. So, again, it's really, really important to think about how being part of this ecosystem, if you will, is helping you develop. And if you have talents to give, how are you helping to develop others? Paying it forward. All right. So without further ado, I need like a little drum roll. Just think of a little drum roll. Here are kind of the 10 lessons that I learned in my first year. Thanks, Simon. I appreciate that. So the first lesson is just because you have this amazing post doesn't mean it's going to hit the mark. And I still have to remind myself of that sometimes. There'll be something that I'll think about or write for Twitter or LinkedIn, and I feel so good about it. And I'm just like, yes, this is going to be so awesome. And then it gets like 20 views or something, right? So you have to remember that just because you put something out there that it doesn't necessarily always hit, and if you just kind of just put it aside and don't make it part of like your routine, you're going to build this like digital graveyard. And what I mean by that is think about if you have if I had $1 for every like dead website or forum or something out there, I never have to work another day in my life. And a lot of times the reason these things die is because nobody takes care of them. So you have to drive that and you have to take care of that and really make a commitment to putting yourself out there. Whether, again, if you start with curation or if you start with kind of like working out loud, which I'm going to talk about here in a minute, there's a lot of ways that you can kind of build this out. But don't expect just because you throw something out there that it's just going to get this amazing reaction. And again, there were a lot of things that I thought were really awesome that I was proud of putting out there, and it didn't get the response that I expected it to, and that's okay too. Just being able to think about, okay, well, maybe why didn't it get the response? And to Jack's point about the noise, that's a little sidebar too. I'll hold that thought for a minute, but maybe it just wasn't the right timing to put it out there. But with everything happening this year, if this year has taught us anything, I think it's taught us that people are a little cray cray sometimes, right? But there has been so much noise in our profession this year, and I just have to mute. I have to mute some people. I just can't deal with it at some point. So, um, you know, okay, Simon, fair enough. Only sometimes. Yeah, you're right. But I just think it's really important to, again, be consistent and make sure that whatever it is that you are putting out there is something that you're you agree not necessarily agree with, but something that you want to kind of add to the conversation. All right, kind of in line, my second lesson here is about providing value. So, what makes you you? And this is something that I've talked a lot to one of my mentors about. So, one of my mentors is just an amazing lady. I could listen to her talk about everything she's seen in learning and development, I think, for the rest of my life and never get bored in one moment. But a lot of the times I'm just like, that's brilliant. That's brilliant. She's like, that's common sense. Everybody knows that. And I'm like, no, everybody doesn't know that. Everybody doesn't have that perspective or that experience or that lesson learned that you have. And yes, Jack, you knew exactly who I was talking about. And you have something here. You have a perspective. If you are brand new to this and ID you're brand new or you're a teacher, um you have such a gift right now because you can provide so much content through new eyes. And that's why I love being around people who are new. That's why I love it because people who are new are going to ask me why I do things a certain way. People are going to ask me why all these other things that are really going to be, challenging me as a professional. And I think that that is what it is all about. So, again, provide value, know yourself, to thy own self be true. Shakespeare said it, and I totally agree with it. Think about, what's your orientation in all of this? Are you a former teacher? Are you somebody that's kind of been a professional who's lived under a rock for a little while and came out? I was that person. I spent the first 6 years of my career living under a rock because I worked at Amazon and I didn't think I needed to network with anybody. And a lot of times people are like, wow, you used to work at Amazon? I'm like, yeah. But sadly, as I was building my brand, a lot of people associated that with the university that I used to work at. But I'm like, I'm not a higher ed ID. I'm just here for the stuff, right? So I think that's also very important to think about too. So again, you can add value right now. You don't have to wait until you have a fancy job title or a job or this big client. You can add value from where you're sitting right now. Everybody has a voice. You are the expert in your own domain. You're the expert of your own experiences, as Tim Slade loves to say, and I love that he says that. So feel free to bring that forward and really think about how you can add value there. And thank you so much. If you would just be kind of to put the questions over in the Q&A so I can watch those and get those. I saw a couple slide by, so if someone would help me with that, I would be forever grateful. Another one is you don't have to kind of stay in our pond here. There are a lot of great perspectives and voices that are outside of the learning and development sphere. I know that, kind of this marketing spin has really been popular in the last couple of years because I hate to say it, I feel like marketers do a better job sometimes than we do when it comes to really capturing people's minds, heart, and attention. And even design, like, I mean, now there's a big surge in kind of user experience. Follow some people there, read some of those articles. You're going to find a lot of parallels. One of my absolute all-time favorite curated articles I share, and I share it maybe once every 3 or 4 months on LinkedIn, is someone wrote an article about what the first level in the original Super Mario Brothers relates to onboarding, and I love it. And it's from a marketing slash video game perspective, but there's so many takeaways to the way that we do learning and development. So you don't have to just kind of stay in the L&D bucket. I admit that's exactly what I did for a long time. And I was like, okay. And it got almost to be like an echo chamber because the people that I followed and had in my network, I was like, oh, we all have the same perspectives. How am I going to grow? So really think about, following and reading articles and stuff that are kind of outside, so kind of on the fray, if you will, of what we do. But I think that it can also kind of challenge your perspectives. All right, this is a big one too. So you got to be consistent. And what I mean by that is don't just like share something and then go away for a couple months and then share something and go away a couple of months. As my grandmother would always say, how do you lift a cow? You lift it every day from the day that it was born. So, in order to really kind of make traction and really kind of grow, you got to put the investment in. And the nice thing is, this doesn't take a whole lot of your time. If you stick around, I'm going to show you some tools that's going to make your life so simple and easy. And this doesn't take a whole lot of time. You can start with something as little as like 15 minutes, and it really can make a big impact. One thing that I've been doing the last couple of weeks, and I'm saying this because the post that I started today for it actually didn't share, is I've just been sharing 5 jobs on LinkedIn. Just 5 jobs. So, 5 jobs that I find in instructional design, thinking that maybe I can help somebody who's looking for a job right now. And there's a lot of people that are looking for jobs right now. So, you don't know if that job that you post could be that thing that that person needs. And what a wonderful thing to give somebody, right? If you're able to kind of find something and see something that helps them. I think that's really important. So, I mean, even just something simple like that, that takes, literally no thought leadership. Just takes some effort kind of digging around and looking at some job postings. But that's a nice little thing that you can do to kind of, again, start a consistent, posting schedule. All right. This one. I think there's a huge, huge, huge difference in people who are authentic versus not. And I can really kind of tell it a mile away. I get really aggravated, and the easiest way for me to unfollow slash mute somebody is when it's very clear to me that that person's just feeding their own ego. And I think we all know people like that. I call them blowhards. You can call them whatever you want, but the people who are like, look at me, or the thing I really can't stand right now on LinkedIn are the people that share the posts like, oh, look, I'm trending. Look at me, give me a round of applause. And I'm thinking, well, like my stuff trends every day and I don't say anything about it because it's really not that big of a deal. Like, good job, right? So just be authentic. And one thing that I know people are really kind of hesitant about as they are starting kind of this social media journey, if you will, is, how much is too much to share? And I want to say that I think there's a big difference between being authentic and being transparent. So when I talk about being authentic, I'm talking about you as a person, right? So, what are some of your likes? What are your dislikes? What makes you you? But transparency is the degree to which you share information. So, great example. I unfortunately my cat passed away a couple of months ago, and I still miss him and love him, and maybe one day I'll get another cat. And I didn't share that on LinkedIn because I didn't think that was the appropriate place to share it. But I shared it on Facebook and Instagram because a lot of the people that I'm connected with on those platforms know me on a more personal level. So I knew many of them probably loved Palpatine as much as I did. And so, when he passed, I, shared that information there. And then also on Twitter as well. But just because something happens, you can you can kind of control the degree of what you want to share, and that's your transparency level. I wrote an article about this, actually, this authenticity and transparency, and it's there in the resources. So if you click on the little button there, resources from my presentation, you can read that article where I talk a little bit more about kind of this dichotomy between authenticity and transparency. But um lesson learned, hard one here. And this is true. So this that first year that I did this, I actually was at a conference, and I know some of my friends know this story. And somebody was presenting, and this person is a big name in our profession. We'll leave it at that. And they had a polling snafu in their presentation, and I use that same polling software in a lot of my presentations. So as soon as I saw the slide pop up, I knew that that person hadn't signed in to the platform because it makes this like weird little error message, and they were mad that it wasn't working, and they called the audience slow and saying that they didn't. It was like they were stupid, right? And so I didn't like that very much. So I tweeted about it and I said, "Hey, at blah blah blah, maybe you shouldn't call the audience stupid in your presentation because I don't think that's a really nice way when it's obviously your error." Well, I was being authentic, all right, and then I got a lot of hate messages back. How dare you call that person out? Who do you think you are? Nobody knows who you are. Blah blah blah. But that's me. If you all know me, that's me. I mean, I'm a very kind of blunt person. That's just my personality. I was born without a filter, and I would have said that exact same thing to the person face to face that I said on Twitter. I don't care. Um, but again, that was a hard lesson learned, because I found that if you talk bad about a person that is of high stature in our profession, then you're going to get people to come out after you. But I survived. I mean, I'm still around, and I actually am on a better terms with that particular person, and I even might have reviewed their book that came out. So I mean, let bygones be bygones. It was a lesson learned for them. It was a lesson learned for me. So just, I guess, be cautious with that. Again, it's my personality. I'm very blunt. I'm very honest. That's just who I am as a person. But just again, lesson learned. Be careful. All right. And in that same vein, be humble. I have people in my network. So my, podcasting partner and a couple others who I have said multiple times, if I ever say something or act in a way that comes off in a way that I'm smarter or better or something than someone else, you have every right to call me out. And I said, I want you to tell me that. And I think it's really important to kind of have those people also. Thank you, Jack. I appreciate that. Jack's one of those people. But there's just so many people out there that have this really kind of high regard for themselves. At the end of the day, we're all human and we all have talents in other arenas. And I just think that, when you make it about you, it's so phony and it's just so like, I don't know. Like I just don't know why they feel like this is to feed their ego. I mean, they really need to think about, am I growing as a person and am I able to help people? And that's what to me this is all about. So, I'm very grateful that I have people around me to keep me humble, and I do think that is a little bit of my personality as well, because I would never ever want to give off that vibe to anybody, because we're all human and we all just have different talents and opportunities. So, just because somebody may look like they're ahead doesn't necessarily mean that they are. So, so just be humble. Another thing too, and this is a joke, but among like some of my network is, no one in our profession is getting recognized at the airport. Right. So, you got to keep it in check a little bit, even if you have like a killer presentation or you have a post that's like really hits home. Still at the end of the day, we're in learning and development. Okay. All right. Next one, and this one is really kind of hard, especially as you grow really fast. But as you're starting to build out, so again, think about like as you're starting out, if somebody follows you, follow them back. As long as they're not spam or trying to sell you something or whatever that is, go ahead and follow them back. And this is really hard, I know, but talk to them. Hey, how's it going? Tell me a little bit about what you do. Break the ice with them. That's the easiest way to make connections with people. Is ask questions. Try to get everything kind of situated in there and talk to them. Now, I know this is really hard as you grow. So, for me, especially like on LinkedIn, gosh, the past like few months, especially, no joke, I get at least 50 to 100 messages a day, and it's really hard for me to say yes or say something to somebody. I've pretty much shut down Facebook Messenger, and I even under my Facebook profile it says I don't use Messenger. I'm not ignoring you, because it just got to be way too much because I was on some Facebook groups in there, in on there for instructional design, and it takes a lot of time to send messages back to people, so I do try to respond to every message that I get, but it might be 4 or 5 days later, just kind of depending. But just be kind with people. So if somebody wants to follow you or whatever, that's great. Talk to them. I mean, that's a great way again to kind of build those connections. All right. This one is kind of out there, so I'm going to give this one a little caveat. But feel free to tag people. But my cautionary tale to this is just don't over tag people and don't tag them in your own stuff all the time. So I do get tagged a lot of times in things on LinkedIn, and I'm like, you're not even connected to me. I don't know you. Like, why are you tagging me? Kind of stuff. But if you're actually trying to grow your network and get people kind of together, one person who does a really great job of this is Myra Roldan. So she has a Myra Monday on Twitter, and every Monday she asks a question, then she'll tag some people in it. And tagging isn't necessarily excluding anyone. So if you're not tagged in something, she doesn't, it's not like she's like, oh, I want talking to you. You can't pop in. Like you can obviously like pop in and say stuff. And I'm really bad now because I just get so swamped during the day. I see the stuff. I like being tagged in it and I like following the conversation. But a lot of times I don't respond. And that's on me. That's on me. I just get kind of tired with stuff and I have other obligations going on. Yeah, sorry Simon. I know the captions aren't perfect, but they beat nothing. So trying to do the right thing for accessibility. But so yeah, cautionary tale with tagging. Feel free to tag maybe a couple people, but just don't tag popular people. And I think this is my caveat to it. A lot of times people will tag people that they think they have clout to get more eyeballs on stuff. So don't just arbitrarily tag somebody in something, but tag somebody you want their answer to, or tag somebody that you really admire and say, "Hey, at Jack Hutchinson, I really like the content that you have about your spring cleaning and your course maintenance. Can you speak a little bit more about this in regards to boo boo boo?" I think that's really important. So just feel free to use that. This is another this is another big one too. You're not going to make everyone happy. I know it's crazy, right? One of my favorite memes is, somebody just like crying or whatever, and then the second panel they're like, "What's wrong?" They're like, "Oh, I upset someone on the internet today." Yeah, it's gonna happen, and I hate to say it, LinkedIn I feel like is worse than Twitter, and maybe that's just my experience, but I'll never forget. This was a couple years ago. I was really outraged in the pay disparity of instructional designers at my institution. It was a huge range. It was like some were making 32,000 and some were making $90,000. And working at a university, salaries are public information. So I pulled out six salaries and I just listed them on LinkedIn. I didn't say where they were or whatever. And this was a couple years ago. And I had like, the range and I said, "Okay, can anybody guess which ones are male and which ones are female?" Oh gosh. Overall, I got some pretty good responses to it, but I got like two death threats on LinkedIn for that. How dare you call out? Like, what are you trying to do? You're pushing this liberal agenda, blah blah blah. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like what is wrong with you people? So, just know that the block button is your friend. If you get something like that, you don't have to tolerate that. You don't have to tolerate abuse. You're just trying to get a conversation going. And I wanted to get a conversation going about pay disparity because I think it's an issue in our profession. I do, especially even in like different sectors, right? So, that's all I wanted to do. I just wanted to get the conversation going. Heaven forbid. But another one too is Aaron Pradhan has this really great meme, and again, that's another one I love to share about twice or three times a year about the alternative learning styles. And my favorite's the Gingham style learner. And you wouldn't believe this last time I posted it, how many people, how dare you post this? You say that you are working on your PhD and you're a researcher. Don't you know this is crap? Wait, can't you read that it's in jest? So you won't make people happy. Eleanor Roosevelt said, if you don't have any enemies, that means you never stood for anything. So just don't let them bother you. If people bother you, block them and go on. I'm a big believer in the block button. No time for that. I don't want to deal with it. So don't let it get to you. And again, have fun. This is all about, connecting and, really making connections with people. I love the fact that, pre-COVID, I could go to a conference by myself and run into people that I knew through social media and got to meet them face to face. And then I didn't feel awkward breaking the ice with them because I already felt like I had a relationship with them. And, I'll never forget the first time I met like Jack Hutchinson in real life, Kristen. several people in real life, it was really special to me. And I already had this relationship with them. And then I was able to hang out with them and, they become friends. So I just want to challenge you to think about, how important that is because you never know where you're going to go in your career. And why do you not want to be surrounded by other professionals who care and support you? So that's kind of my lessons on that. Um, let's see here. Before I go into tools of community, I'm going to check the questions real quick. All right. So I want to start just at the top and go down. So Cheryl asked, "Are these good stats for a LinkedIn post? 4,952 views, 150 reactions, and 35 comments." Yeah, I'd say that's pretty solid. I guess my question to that would be, um, you know, what are you tracking it on? So, are you tracking it in ratio to how many people you're currently connected with? Was kind of the intention to reach people outside your network? I would actually challenge you to maybe dig a little deeper on if it's good or not. There's some posts that I share. So, like a great example, my little job posts that I do, it's great if I share those with my network, but I get really excited when I see, people on second or third connections looking at stuff because those are the people I don't know and those are the people that maybe those could potentially help even more. So, I think it just kind of depends. So yeah, okay, I see what you're asking. So for views are people that either when they were scrolling through or they look on your profile, those are like the number of times they were looked at. Reactions means it's an emoji, so somebody either liked it, hearted it. Forget the all the LinkedIn. Oh, the insightful. I'm forgetting another LinkedIn emoji. I really want like a poo emoji for LinkedIn, but I don't think that's going to happen. And then comments. So comments are obviously good because they have something to say about it. I might defer to Devlin on that. I know Devlin has some thoughts on putting a comment on when he shares. I notice he often when he shares something, he'll put like instead of the link in the kind of body of the post, he'll put the comment, the link in the comment. So maybe he's got some magic he wants to share there, not to put him on the spot. Okay. Kristen says, "How much do you try to create stuff that's more in tune with what you think people want versus trying to keep it from what you're doing and hope a following forms around?" That's a good question. Um, I just like follow my soul. I don't know how else to put that. I don't really have any method or try and true kind of recipe for that. If I read something and it inspires me, I like to share it. Now, I wish I had more time to create my own content. I'm trying to work on it. I have on my goal board. I know you all can't see like my office, but like right here, my goal board of I really want to do more YouTube stuff this year. I was really late to the YouTube game, but I really want to do more content on there. But I'm also finishing up my dissertation and I'm doing research, and there's all this other stuff going on. So it's a sacrifice too. You got to make the time to build your own content, especially if you want it to be good stuff. So I think it just kind of depends. I don't really have a try or true method on that, but I'd love to hear what other people have to say about it. And this is a great question, follow-up question from her about the mix of sharing versus creating content. Again, I think it really kind of depends. If you are really good at picking out some content that really hits home and is value add, then I would say go ahead and curate that pup. But if there's something that you want to kind of create, so Devlin, I think immediately of that great little article you did about, you want to be an instructional designer, here's how to do it. That was wonderful. And oh my gosh, you're still getting a ton of praise for it, which is incredible. Because I know you wrote that maybe a couple months ago, but I think it just kind of depends, and there's a lot of great things out there that can be curated, but sometimes you don't see anything out there that really hits the mark for that, and so that's why I wanted to write out the little thing about that I did on my blog about the closed captioning for the Google Slides and PowerPoint, because that's something I've been trying to kind of be a catalyst of and share with people, because a lot of people still don't know that live captioning is a thing, so. Okay. Jay Hill asked, "What's better, to be known for one thing or many?" It is. Isn't it too late for you to be asking philosophical questions, Jay Hill? I don't know. I mean, for me, I think that it's great to kind of have a breadth of expertise. When I think of people that are, I know a couple people who are one hit wonders, I guess, and I very affectionately call them recycling bins because they get to a point in their career where, especially when you transition into leadership, you're not in doing the job anymore. Like you're doing more of the strategy stuff, but yet they still talk about it like they're doing the job. And then I'm like, you're a little kind of outdated with that. So I think it's important to be kind of, I think, known for many things because as you transition into leadership, that's a completely different ball game that I'm currently trying to figure out. So, yeah, that's just kind of my opinion on it. But again, love to hear what other people have to say. Oh, Jack. All right, Jack's got a question. What criteria do you use for who does and who does not get added to your network? Okay, here we go. Um, LinkedIn, super easy. If you look at least profile wise, to be kind of in the learning development space and you don't try to sell me something, you're in on my LinkedIn. And then I kind of just kind of put them in a like a little probationary little bucket. And as long as they don't send me a message immediately after, hey, hop on a 15-minute call for me and buy my awesome product, then they can kind of stay in there. And as far as Twitter goes, I'm kind of a little bit more picky on like who I follow back just because my Twitter I've had longer than my LinkedIn, and I feel like that one's a little bit more of a maintained garden, so to speak. Then there's some people that I follow on Twitter, and my Twitter has become kind of a blend more of not just like me as a professional, but me as a person. So on my Twitter, I follow a lot of information about the Carolina Panthers, it's my favorite football team, and also follow a lot of information about Nick Jonas because it's my favorite celebrity. So there's a little bit more about me as a person on my Twitter. So I think that it matters kind of the platform. But again, LinkedIn, I am not picky. If somebody wants to connect with me, I welcome it. I'm happy to have them just as long as they don't try to sell me something. And even at the very very first line in my bio in LinkedIn is I am not connecting with vendors. Like leave me alone. I don't want to buy your stuff. Leave me alone. And what does that actually work, by the way? I was just curious. Like, does that actually work? These like soft, like these cold messages? Like, I don't get it. Okay. I'll go ahead and answer one more, and then I'm gonna finish up with these tools and stuff. Okay. So, Tracy asked if I use Twitter lists for curating interest groups. I have before. I've done that for conferences specifically, specifically ones at Ohio State where it was like pedagogy and like that kind of stuff. So, I use it for that. Now, I don't use them as much as I know other people do. I think again, it's a preference thing. I'm just so used to just scrolling through or knowing who it is that I want to go to their wall and see what they've posted. I typically just kind of go to that. But that's probably an area of opportunity for me. Tracy is using more Twitter lists. All right. Melinda, hang tight. I will get to your question, I promise. Okay, so a couple tools and communities that I recommend. So if you're looking to get into communities, these are kind of the three that I recommend. Two of these I'm a member of, one I'm not. So I got a lot of my start in the training, learning, and development community. I've been a part of that since 2018, and I love a lot of the people in there, and I really care a lot about the mission. So it actually introduced me to Crowdcast. So I've gotten a lot of value out of the connections that I've made at TLDC. And the coolest thing is, because I was involved in TLDC, I got to go to London 2 years ago, which was really awesome. So really thankful for all the great opportunities I've had in TLDC. The e-learning network is something that is predominantly like European based, but I have a couple really good friends who are really involved with the e-learning network and they have like mentoring groups. So if you're watching this and you're in Europe, this might be a better fit for you. And finally, the Association for Talent Development, local level. So just remember, all local chapters are not the same, and you can actually be that spark of change for your local chapter. It happened for me. I got involved in my local chapter because there's a couple things going on I didn't really care for, and I thought, well, I think I could run that better, and I want to try. So I did, and now I'm past president, and I'm riding off into the sunset. So it's someone else's thing to manage, and honestly, I'm very thankful for that with everything going on. But you can really make some great connections through that as well. Okay, so the moment you've probably all been waiting for, the tools that I love to use. And yeah, and if you have other communities, please share them here in the chat too. Definitely, again, this is just my own experience. Things that I've heard are great. I know there's a couple Facebook groups. The Facebook groups, though, I have to say, often raise my blood pressure more than add value just through some of the questions and things I see on there. But if nothing else, it gives me like a really nice kind of laugh in the middle of the day or whenever I'm looking at it. Okay, so the tools that I use are Nuzzle, Feedly, and Buffer. And the good news is all of these are free. And I was saying, if it's free, it's for me. So if you give me a moment here, let me log in here. I was just going to show you what it looks like, and just in case you're curious. And I have links to all these in the resource file underneath here. So let me start with Nuzzle. All right, so let me close this out. I'm going to get big again. Okay, and then let me get over here. Hang tight one moment. Okay, and so come on, it's thinking. Okay, can you all see that? Let's see here. It's kind of freezing up on me here. Oh, thank you. Yes, of course. I gotta have my Kentucky Blue, have my Kentucky Blue shirt on with my Learning Camel logo on it today. Um, okay, hold on just one second, y'all. I'm gonna switch over and try that one more time. Thanks for your patience. If you've been on my streams before, you know I always have tech issues. That's just the name of the game. Okay, there we go. There we go. Okay. So this is Nuzzle. And so what Nuzzle does is, if you sign in with your Twitter or your LinkedIn, it will curate what is going on with your network, which is wonderful. So looks like today the one of the top stories that are shared is from Donald Taylor about the future of conferences in 2021. And I read it and I thought it was great. So I'm actually sharing this out tomorrow. So you can actually go through and you can start with, again, your network. But what I love about this is it actually will pull out what your friends of your friends are sharing too. Now, again, a lot of this sometimes is political, so take that for what it's worth. But you can go through and see if that's something that you'd like to share. But you can directly tweet from here if you want to, or you have a feature to do a little newsletter, and you can send something out like that if you wanted to do a newsletter as well. So, really nice way to pull in different content, and you're just gonna have to go look at what he has to say, Jay Hill. Oh, and thank you, Melina, about my old brash. I got it for my birthday from my cousin. So we have like a joke about that, about that you've made it when you have like an old brash. So yeah, David, I think it kind of is, but it's more of like an aggregator. I think it just kind of puts in some of like the hottest, most shared stuff of your network, kind of in this one little stream here. And again, I like the fact that you can instantly just share it from here, which is wonderful. So you just connect your little account to it, and it puts it away that way. So let me pop over and I'll show you all Feedly. And Feedly is a Mike Taylor favorite, just FYI. So if you want to be like Mike, if you remember the 90s commercials, but talking about Mike Taylor, Feedly is his go to. And yes, I know Nick Flora likes it too, Kristen. Dave, I think I saw a question that you had. I think you can actually look for content by keyword and hashtag on Nuzzle, Dave. It's a great question. All right. So Feedly, you can set up your own way. So I actually build out these little channels for myself. I love video games, so I follow kind of like IGN and like all these other little blogs and websites. So you can actually add various places on the web that you read, and they will come in instantly here. And then just like with Nuzzle, you can actually go ahead and share it right here, which is great. So as you're reading, you can say, "Man, I really like this. This is something that's really interesting." Maybe not this particular one, but you know what I'm saying. You can go ahead and share it with your network on Twitter and LinkedIn, and you can build as many of these out on the side as you like. So here's some of the various blogs that like I subscribe to. So like here's Caffeine More. It's usually always something great, and I can go ahead and read it and see if it's something that I want to share. And then the last tool I'm going to show, Buffer here. Um, it might have me log in here. Maybe not. Give me a moment. Okay, yeah. So then it would share out, that on Buffer, and I could do that there, which is nice. So, okay. All right. And then the last one is Buffer. So let me just show you that one properly. And thanks again for your patience with all the cycle here. Then I'll get to the questions. Okay, so here is my buffer. So today at 5:38, so here in a few minutes, this is going to be shared on my LinkedIn. So I have a couple other accounts that I have here that I've helped in the past or shared content for. But the nice thing is you can go in and schedule your posts. So a lot, pretty much everything you see me post on social media, I've scheduled it. And it's actually one of the first things I do in the morning when I get out of bed and get ready for my day. I spend my first, 15, 20 minutes reading and going through stuff. And if I find value, then I go ahead and load up my queue and share it out. So that way I'm able to also share that out with others. And this is also where I build out my job posts for like my hot picks for jobs. So, and see right there it is. There's the conferences in 2021. It's going out at 9:36 in the morning, J Hill, Eastern time. So you're going to have to wait a while tomorrow unless you go ahead and find it. But yeah. So those are kind of the tools that I use. I like this again because it schedules it out for me. I don't have to think about it. And I love the fact that they shorten the links for you as well because some of these links are really gnarly to some of these things that you post, so it makes it really good. Okay. All right, and with that I'm going to close that out, and that's about all I had for that. Let me go into the questions. Okay, so Melina is asking about do I have a strategy for LinkedIn and the e-learning community? I'm in sponge mode, trying to learn as much as I can. And there's so much information to read, and I don't know how to read it. I completely understand, and my big thing I get my pitchfork out about is I think there are several people out there just making noise about themselves. And so it is really difficult to kind of figure out that stuff, especially if you're new. It's no wonder that people that are new to instructional design have their heads spinning right now. It's no wonder. There's so much stuff out there to do. So I would just probably recommend pick some stuff that really kind of resonates with you. You can, I'm a big fan of like doing, quick little screenshots or something like that because things do kind of pass by very quickly. There's some other tools you can do, I think, to save like the URL. So if you see a post and you're like, I really like this, you should be able to go to like a share and then get the URL, and it should be able to like, you could save that for later. But yeah, I completely agree with you. Oh, all right, Devlin, go for it. Having an article about how to grow your following on LinkedIn, go for it. That's awesome. It's very meta. I dig it. All right, yeah, Pocket. I forgot about Pocket. Yeah, Pocket might be good. Good for that. All right, Jay Hill asked me if I follow a marketing schedule and do you plan your content far in advance? No, I don't. I probably should, but again, honest mode here. I just follow my gut, follow my intuition, and see you, Jack. Thanks for coming by. And I really, if there's a lot of good stuff that I'm reading, I'll just start loading up my queue. And if there's kind of a dry spell of good content, then I might go back and recycle something I shared a couple months ago or something like that that was really impactful. So no rhyme or reason to it. I know that you could probably get a lot of success out of doing something like that, but myself personally, I don't do that. All right, Todd Reamer. Hey, I didn't know you were here. So he asks, do any of the three feeds work better on a mobile? I know for a fact that Nuzzle and Feedly do work on mobile. Because I used to have them on my old phone. Actually, I haven't put them on my new phone, and I believe Buffer you can too. So I've just checked to see if there's apps for them, and if there's apps for them, then yeah, absolutely, you should be able to also use them there too. So great question. All right, so with that, I will leave it open one more moment. If anybody has any last minute questions, we're right at time, perfect timing. Don't forget all the resources for the presentation. You have access to my presentation, you have access to the different tools. I have the links in there as well as a couple books. So, a big book that has inspired me is called Working Out Loud, and I have a link to that there. I know Mr. Jonathan Hill is also a fan of that book, and thank you all so much for spending some time with me today. Hope you have a good rest of your week. Tomorrow is Friday, so that is weekend eve, and enjoy. Stay healthy and encourage each other, lift each other up, and do something nice for somebody today. So thanks so much. Have a good rest.